The massive alien ship cut through space like a silver knife, its hull gleaming under Earth's sun. Commander Blake stood at the observation window of humanity's orbital defense station, his coffee growing cold as he watched the vessel approach. This wasn't a diplomatic visit or a trade mission. These were hunters, and they had come for Earth's animals. The ship belonged to the Kethmer hunting syndicate, the most feared predator collectors in the known galaxy. Their leader, Huntmaster Vextel, was a legend among his people. For over 2 centuries, he had traveled from world to world, capturing the most dangerous creatures the universe had to offer. His private hunting preserves housed monsters that could tear apart armored vehicles with their bare claws, beasts that could melt steel with their breath, and nightmares that hunted using telepathic abilities. Lieutenant Rodriguez approached. Blake's position, a datapad clutched in her hands. Her face showed the kind of worry that came from reading classified intelligence reports. "Sir, they've filed an official request with Earth Command. They want permission to conduct what they call specimen collection activities in the Canadian wilderness." Blake turned away from the window, his jaw tight. The alien ship was already entering Earth's atmosphere, confident that permission would be granted. After all, who would dare refuse the galaxy's most successful hunters? What kind of equipment are they bringing down? That's the problem, sir. Our sensors can barely make sense of it. Containment fields that can hold creatures weighing several tons, neural disruptors that can paralyze any nervous system, and bioscanners so advanced they can analyze a creature's combat potential from orbit. Rodriguez paused, checking her notes. According to their preliminary scans, they've already classified Earth's predators as primitively evolved and suitable only for juvenile training exercises. The insult stung, but Blake had to admit the aliens had reason for confidence. The Kethmer hunters weren't just any collection team. Each member came from a different species, chosen for their unique hunting abilities. The pack-hunting Valtari could coordinate attacks across vast distances using natural telepathy. The amphibious Gorth possessed venom so potent it could drop a charging rhinoceros in seconds. The cybernetically enhanced Nexari scouts could see heat signatures through solid rock and move faster than the human eye could follow. Together, they had never failed to collect their target specimens. Their reputation stretched across dozens of star systems, and their hunting preserves were visited by the galaxy's elite, who paid enormous sums to hunt creatures that would be impossible to find in the wild. Blake watched the alien craft disappear into the clouds, heading north toward the Canadian forests. The hunting team had studied Earth's wildlife from space, analyzing everything from African lions to Siberian tigers. Their computers had run thousands of simulations, calculating threat levels and combat potential. Every single Earth predator had been rated as minimal challenge or lower. "They're treating this like a vacation," Rodriguez muttered, reading through more intelligence reports. "Listen to this transmission we intercepted. The local fauna shows no evidence of advanced combat evolution. Standard containment protocols will be more than sufficient. Recommend assignment of junior hunters for training purposes." The arrogance was breathtaking. These aliens had conquered the most dangerous predators in the galaxy, creatures that could tear apart spacecraft and survive in the vacuum of space. To them, Earth's animals were nothing more than primitive beasts that happened to have sharp teeth and claws. Blake knew better than to underestimate any predator, alien or otherwise. He had grown up hunting in the mountains of Montana, and his grandfather had taught him a simple rule: never judge a creature by its size or appearance. The most dangerous animals were often the ones that looked harmless. "Keep monitoring their communications," he ordered, "and get me a direct line to the wildlife research stations in that area. I want to know exactly what they're walking into up there." As the alien ship vanished from sight, Blake couldn't shake the feeling that the Kethmer hunters were about to learn a very expensive lesson about Earth's wildlife. They might have conquered predators from across the galaxy, but they had never faced something that evolution had spent millions of years perfecting for one simple purpose: survival at any cost. The Canadian wilderness held secrets that no orbital scan could reveal, and the hunters were about to discover that Earth's predators played by very different rules than the rest of the galaxy. Dr. Crawford adjusted the hidden camera feed from his research station, watching in fascination and growing concern as the alien hunters worked their way through the Canadian wilderness. What he witnessed over the next 3 days would have been impressive if it wasn't so terrifying for Earth's wildlife. The first capture happened at dawn on their second day. A massive grizzly bear, easily 800 pounds of muscle and fury, emerged from the tree line near a salmon stream. The bear had probably never seen anything like the sleek alien hunters, but its instincts kicked in immediately. It reared up on its hind legs, roaring a challenge that echoed through the forest. The aliens barely paused in their conversation. One of them, a tall creature with 4 arms, simply pointed a device that looked like a crystal wand at the bear. A shimmering net of pure energy wrapped around the grizzly in seconds. The massive predator froze mid-roar, its eyes wide but its body completely paralyzed. Within minutes, the bear was floating inside a transparent containment field, conscious, but unable to move a single muscle. "Jesus," whispered Sergeant Reynolds, watching the footage from over Crawford's shoulder. "That thing could tear apart a car, and they just switched it off." The pattern repeated itself throughout the week. A pack of 6 wolves, working together with the kind of coordination that had made them legends among hunters, approached the alien camp under cover of darkness. These weren't desperate or starving wolves. They were healthy, intelligent predators who had successfully hunted elk and moose for years. They moved like shadows through the underbrush, communicating with subtle body language and positioning themselves for a coordinated attack. The aliens detected them before they got within 200 yards. Neural disruptors hit each wolf simultaneously, dropping them where they stood. The entire pack was unconscious and contained within their energy fields before the lead wolf even realized they had been spotted. Crawford shook his head in amazement as he watched the aliens load their prizes. "Their technology makes our best tranquilizer guns look like slingshots." But it was the mountain lion capture that really demonstrated the gap between Earth's predators and galactic hunting technology. The big cat had been stalking the aliens for 2 days, using every skill that millions of years of evolution had given it. It approached from downwind, moved only when the wind rustled the trees to mask its sounds, and chose its moment perfectly when the hunters seemed distracted by their equipment. The mountain lion launched itself from a rocky outcrop 40 feet away, a perfect ambush that should have caught any Earth-based prey completely off guard. Instead, it slammed into an invisible force field that appeared around the alien hunters like a soap bubble. The cat bounced off harmlessly and hit the ground, stunned and confused. The aliens laughed. Actually laughed. Crawford could hear it. Through their communication system, a sound like grinding metal that somehow conveyed pure amusement. To them, the mountain lion's perfect hunting technique was nothing more than entertainment. "Look at this," Reynolds said, pointing to another monitor showing intercepted alien communications. The messages back to their home base grew more arrogant with each successful capture. Huntmaster Vextel was practically bragging about how easy Earth's predators were to collect. One message particularly stung. Day 4 of Earth specimen collection. Local predators show no advanced combat adaptations. Recommend this world for juvenile hunter training exercises. Even our newest recruits would find adequate sport here. The casual dismissal of Earth's most dangerous predators was infuriating, but Crawford had to admit they had reason for confidence. Bears that could fight off entire hunting parties. Wolves that had survived in the wild for generations. Mountain lions that could take down prey twice their size, all of them captured, without the aliens even breaking a sweat. Their success made them sloppy. Crawford noticed it first in their equipment placement. Force field generators left unguarded while they ate. Containment units positioned carelessly around their camp. Most importantly, they stopped taking Earth's wildlife seriously when their scanners picked up a small heat signature near their camp on day 5. They barely paid attention. The readout showed a creature weighing only 30 pounds, moving slowly through the underbrush. Their computers classified it as a minor mustelid with negligible threat potential. "Send the rookie," Vextel ordered, with obvious boredom. "Use the basic restraint field. This one isn't even worth a proper containment unit." What their advanced scanners had detected was a Wolverine, and it had been watching their operation with growing interest for 3 full days, while they celebrated their easy victories and mocked Earth's primitive predators. The Wolverine had been studying them, learning their patterns, understanding their technology, planning. Unlike the other animals they had captured, this one hadn't stumbled into their trap. It had deliberately let itself be found. The Wolverine had a reputation among Earth's predators that the aliens' computers couldn't calculate. It never gave up, never backed down, and never forgot an enemy. The hunters were about to discover that some of Earth's predators had evolved not just to survive, but to win at any cost. Captain Harris jerked awake to the sound of his emergency communicator buzzing at 3 in the morning. The red light on his nightstand cast an eerie glow across his quarters as he grabbed the device. What he heard made him sit bolt upright in his bunk. The alien hunting camp had gone dark for 6 days straight. The Kethmer hunters had been sending regular status reports every 4 hours like clockwork. Their messages had been full of arrogance and casual dismissal of Earth's wildlife. Then, at 11:47 p.m., everything changed. The last transmission had been panicked and broken, filled with static and what sounded like explosions in the background. "Sir, you need to see this," Corporal Parker said, as Harris arrived at the communications center, still pulling on his uniform. She had dark circles under her eyes and looked like she hadn't slept in days. The communication logs were spread across multiple screens, showing a timeline that made no sense. The trouble had started small. A containment field had mysteriously lost power during the night watch. Then their food storage units began showing signs of contamination. Motion sensors around the perimeter started triggering false alarms every few minutes, keeping the hunters awake and on edge. At first, they thought it was equipment failure, Parker explained, scrolling through the intercepted messages. Standard wear and tear from operating in Earth's atmosphere. But then things got weird. The alien hunters had discovered their backup power cores were being systematically damaged. Not destroyed completely, but sabotaged in ways that made them unreliable. Cables were chewed through in places that should have been impossible to reach. Food supplies disappeared overnight, not eaten but scattered and ruined. Most disturbing of all, 2 of the hunting team members had simply vanished during routine patrols. Their communication devices were found smashed among the trees, but there were no signs of struggle, no energy weapon discharge patterns, nothing to indicate what had happened to them. Harris studied the timeline more carefully. This all started after they captured that Wolverine. "That's what we think too, sir, but here's the thing that doesn't make sense." Parker pulled up the technical specifications of the alien containment systems. According to their own data, that stasis pod should have been escape-proof. The field strength was rated for creatures 10 times larger and stronger, but escape was exactly what had happened. The Wolverine had somehow gotten out of its containment unit without triggering any alarms, without leaving any trace of how it had broken free. The discovery was made only when a routine check found the pod empty, its energy field still functioning perfectly, but containing nothing but air. Dr. Morgan arrived at the base just after sunrise, her helicopter landing in a whirlwind of dust and noise. As Earth's leading expert on predator behavior, she had been studying the alien hunting operation from the beginning. What she found in the communication logs made her shake her head in disbelief. "They have no idea what they're dealing with," she said, reviewing the damage reports that were still trickling in from the alien camp. "Wolverines aren't just tough. They're problem solvers. This one has been watching them for days, learning how their technology works. The evidence was all there in the pattern of sabotage. The Wolverine hadn't randomly destroyed equipment. It had targeted specific components that would cause maximum disruption with minimal effort. Power cables that fed multiple systems, communication relays that coordinated their sensors, food storage units that would force the hunters to venture outside their protective barriers to find supplies. It's waging psychological warfare, Morgan continued, pointing to the timeline of false alarms. Look at this pattern. The motion sensors are being triggered every 20 to 30 minutes, all night long. The hunters aren't getting any sleep. They're exhausted, paranoid, and making mistakes. The mistakes were becoming deadly. The alien hunters, who had effortlessly captured bears and mountain lions, were now stumbling around their own camp like beginners. They shot at shadows, wasted energy weapon charges on false targets, and left critical equipment unguarded while they investigated non-existent threats. Harris watched the latest status report with growing amazement. The Wolverine had somehow learned to mimic the heat signatures of the other captured animals, triggering the aliens' bioscanners and sending them running in circles. It used the dense forest canopy to move unseen, appearing in one location just long enough to cause damage before vanishing into terrain the aliens couldn't navigate effectively. The remarkable thing is its persistence, Morgan noted, studying footage from the few cameras that were still working. Most animals would have fled after the first encounter with energy weapons. This Wolverine was hit at least twice that we can confirm, wounds that would have killed or disabled any other predator. It just kept coming. The creature's legendary tenacity was on full display. Burns from energy weapons that should have sent it fleeing in pain only seemed to make it more determined. Instead of avoiding the alien hunters, it was actively hunting them, turning their own camp into a battlefield where their advanced technology became a liability. Captain Harris realized he was witnessing something unprecedented in military history. A single 30-pound animal had turned the galaxy's most feared hunters into prey. The aliens who had casually captured Earth's apex predators were now barricaded in their own camp, afraid to venture outside after dark. The Wolverine had done something that entire planetary defense forces had failed to accomplish. It had made the Kethmer hunters afraid, and it was just getting started. Colonel Mitchell watched the tactical displays with a mixture of horror and admiration as the alien hunting expedition completely fell apart. What had started as a routine specimen collection mission had turned into something that military strategists would study for decades to come. A single Wolverine was systematically destroying the most feared hunting team in the galaxy. The breakdown happened faster than anyone thought possible. The Velteri, those pack-hunting aliens who had coordinated flawlessly during their earlier captures, were the first to fall. These creatures had evolved to hunt in groups across open terrain, using telepathic communication to surround and overwhelm their prey. On their home world, they were unstoppable, but the Canadian wilderness wasn't their home world. The dense forest broke up their formations and limited their sightlines. When they tried to surround the Wolverine using their standard hunting pattern, they found themselves separated by thick underbrush and rocky terrain that favored individual combat over group tactics. Major Thompson, monitoring the situation from the observation post, shook his head as he watched the feeds. The Wolverine is picking them off, one at a time. It's using the terrain like a chess master, forcing them into positions where their numbers don't matter. The first Veltari hunter disappeared during a routine patrol, his telepathic connection to the pack suddenly going silent. They found his equipment scattered near a narrow ravine, but no sign of the hunter himself. The pack became nervous, tightening their formation and avoiding the dense woods where their advantage disappeared. That was exactly what the Wolverine wanted. By making them afraid of the forest, it had limited their movement to clearings and open areas where it could observe them from concealment. When the second Veltari tried to retrieve supplies from their landing craft, the Wolverine struck from above, dropping from a tree branch in an attack so swift that the aliens advanced. Reflexes couldn't save him. The amphibious Gorth were next, and their downfall was almost comical if it weren't so deadly. These creatures were legends in aquatic environments, capable of surviving in any liquid from acid pools to liquid methane. Their venom could paralyze creatures the size of elephants, and their ability to breathe underwater made them perfect for hunting in swamp worlds and ocean planets. They're completely out of their element, Agent Wells observed, studying the intelligence reports. The Canadian forest was experiencing a dry season, with only small streams and seasonal ponds available. The Gorth couldn't use their swimming abilities, couldn't rely on their natural camouflage that worked in murky water, and their webbed appendages made them clumsy on the rocky forest floor. The Wolverine seemed to understand this weakness instinctively. It led the Gorth on a chase through the driest parts of the forest, far from any significant water source. When they finally cornered what they thought was their target, they discovered they had been chasing shadows while the real Wolverine attacked their base camp from behind. But it was the downfall of the cybernetically enhanced Nexari that truly demonstrated the Wolverine's intelligence. These aliens were more machine than flesh, with enhanced speed, strength, and sensory capabilities that made them nearly invincible in most hunting scenarios. Their cybernetic implants could track heat signatures through solid rock, predict movement patterns, and coordinate attacks with computer precision. The Wolverine turned their greatest strength into their greatest weakness. Instead of avoiding the high-tech sensors, it began deliberately triggering them in patterns that overloaded the systems. It would appear briefly in one location, just long enough to register on their scanners, then vanish before they could respond. The constant alerts and false positives created a cascade of system failures. It's learned how to cause feedback loops in their enhancement systems, Technical Sergeant Davis explained, studying the data streams. Every time their sensors lock onto the Wolverine, it does something unexpected that crashes their targeting algorithms. The coup de grace came when the Wolverine began using the aliens' own technology against them. It had observed their equipment for days, learning which components were critical and which could be safely damaged. With surgical precision, it began targeting the power sources that fed the Nexari's cybernetic systems. One by one, the enhanced hunters found themselves operating on backup power, then emergency reserves, then nothing at all. Their superhuman abilities disappeared as their implants went offline, leaving them slower and weaker than baseline humans in a hostile environment they didn't understand. Colonel Mitchell received the final status reports with grim fascination. Huntmaster Vextel, S elite team. Veterans who had successfully conquered predators on more than 50 worlds had been reduced to a single survivor in less than a week. The alien commander now sat alone in his damaged camp, surrounded by the stasis pods that contained his fallen teammates. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The hunters who had come to Earth to capture dangerous predators had become the prey. Their advanced technology, their superior numbers, their experience across dozens of worlds, none of it mattered against a creature that refused to play by their rules. The Wolverine had proven something that military theorists had long suspected, but never seen demonstrated so clearly. Intelligence and determination could overcome any technological advantage. The galaxy's most feared hunters had been outmaneuvered by an animal that weighed less than most of their equipment packs. Huntmaster Vextel was about to face the Wolverine alone, and everyone watching knew how that encounter would end. General Foster leaned forward in his command chair as the final confrontation began to unfold on the main screen. After a week of watching his elite hunting team get systematically dismantled by a 30-pound Earth animal, Huntmaster Vextel had decided to settle this personally. The alien commander stood in the center of his ruined camp, checking his weapons one final time. The sight would have been impressive under different circumstances. Vextel wore battle armor that had protected him during hunts on 50 different worlds, each piece inscribed with symbols representing his most dangerous conquests. His primary weapon could punch holes through starship hulls, while his backup systems included neural disruptors, gravity manipulators, and energy shields that could deflect artillery strikes. "Look at all that firepower," Captain Adams muttered, studying the tactical readout. "He's carrying enough weaponry to take down a small army, and he's using it to hunt one Wolverine." But everyone in the command center could see what the alien hunter couldn't. The battlefield had already been chosen, and it wasn't in Vextal's favor. The Wolverine had spent 7 days learning every inch of the surrounding terrain. It knew which trees would provide cover, which rocks could deflect energy blasts, and which paths would give it the advantage in close combat. More importantly, it had studied its opponent. Every time Vextal had ventured outside his protective barriers during the past week, the Wolverine had been watching. It had learned his movement patterns, identified his blind spots, and discovered the weaknesses that a week of frustration and sleepless nights had created. The alien commander began his hunt with confidence, his sensors sweeping the area for heat signatures. The advanced detection equipment that had effortlessly tracked bears and mountain lions should have made finding one small Wolverine trivially easy. Instead, the readings showed nothing but empty forest. "He's looking in all the wrong places," observed Lieutenant Rodriguez from her monitoring station. "The Wolverine isn't hiding from his sensors. It's using the environment to mask its signature." The first attack came from above, just like the Wolverine's previous ambushes, but this time Vextal was ready. His energy shield activated automatically, deflecting the creature as it dropped from a tree branch. The alien spun around, firing. His primary weapon, at where the Wolverine should have landed? The blast vaporized a section of forest, leaving a smoking crater where trees had stood moments before. Vextal's targeting systems showed a direct hit, and he allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Finally, this primitive Earth creature had learned to respect superior firepower. Then the Wolverine attacked from behind. It had used the explosion as cover, circling around while Vextal celebrated his apparent victory. The creature's claws found the weak points in the alien's armor, joints and connection points that even advanced engineering couldn't fully protect. Sparks flew as critical systems took damage. "Impossible," Vextal snarled, spinning around to face his attacker. But the Wolverine was already gone, vanished into the underbrush before his weapons could lock on target. What followed was a masterclass in guerrilla warfare. The Wolverine used every advantage the forest provided, attacking from unexpected angles and disappearing before Vextal could retaliate effectively. Each strike was precisely targeted, disabling specific components of the alien's high-tech equipment. The neural disruptors went offline first, their delicate circuits damaged by claws that somehow found exactly the right cables to sever. The gravity manipulator failed next, its power core cracked by an attack that came from a direction the targeting computers hadn't even considered possible. General Foster watched in amazement as the Wolverine systematically dismantled technology that had taken centuries to develop. It's not just fighting him, it's teaching him a lesson about the difference between sophisticated equipment and actual combat experience. The battle raged for over an hour, but the outcome became inevitable as Vextal's advantages disappeared one by one. His energy shields flickered and failed. His targeting systems crashed under constant interference. His armor, designed to protect against energy weapons and projectiles, proved inadequate against claws that struck with surgical precision. When the dust finally settled, Huntmaster Vextal lay motionless among the wreckage of his once mighty arsenal. His weapons were scattered and broken, his armor cracked and smoking. The alien who had casually dismissed Earth's predators as primitively evolved had been defeated by the very creature he had underestimated most. The Wolverine stood over its fallen opponent for a moment, as if making sure the lesson had been learned. Then, without ceremony, it simply walked away into the forest. The point had been made. Admiral Stone received the final transmission 12 hours later. Vextala's voice was barely recognizable, weak and filled with something that sounded almost like respect. The message he broadcast to the Galactic Empire was nothing like his earlier arrogant reports. "This is Huntmaster Vextal of the Kethmer Syndicate. I am transmitting an immediate revision to all intelligence files on Earth's wildlife. Previous assessments were catastrophically incorrect. Mark this world as absolutely forbidden to all hunting expeditions. These predators are not primitive. They are perfectly evolved for their environment and represent a threat level that our current classification system cannot adequately describe." He paused, and when he continued, his tone carried the weight of hard-earned wisdom. "Humanity's homeworld is off-limits to all Syndicate operations. Any hunter who ignores this warning does so at their own peril." Dr. Clark smiled as she filed the final incident report. The galaxy's most feared predator collectors had learned a valuable lesson about Earth's wildlife. Sometimes the most advanced technology in the universe was no match for 4 billion years of natural selection and the simple refusal to give up. The Wolverine had defended its territory, and in doing so, it had protected an entire planet.